Okay, onward and upward. 17, section 3. So let's talk about a different type of hazard now, not biological, chemical. So when we talk about chemicals that are hazardous, they can fit in a couple different categories. We can have what we call a toxic chemical. This causes harm or death, and it can be either permanent or temporary. And then we also have this term hazardous chemical. These are chemicals that create hazards, like they're flammable, so they burn or they explode, or they can irritate your body, your skin, your lungs. So we have ones that are toxic that cause body damage, and there are hazardous ones that cause hazards. Very often they can do both. And so just because it's toxic doesn't mean it can't be hazardous and vice versa, but we distinguish the two slightly. This right here, you'll see on things, you'll see on the back of big hauling trucks and different things. It is how we label hazardous or chemical materials. And so the white one down here is for special nuances that the chemical has. Yellow is how reactive it is to other things. Blue is how it will affect your health, and red is how flammable it is. So when you look at that, this gives you an indication of that. It's a scale of 0, meaning perfectly fine for you, up to 4, which means holy cow, watch out. So if you see a 4 on the flammability, for instance, that stuff will burn like crazy. Okay. In addition, when we look at chemicals, we talk about them from an effect on human beings perspective. And so we talk about mutagens, teratogens, and carcinogens. Mutagens, as you might guess, are cause mutation. Okay? They cause mutations in your DNA. And so this can be in the form of chemicals or radiations. So UV radiation, radioactive, and then bromine is a chemical that causes it. So mutagens change or mutate your DNA. Teratogens have to do with babies. So babies that are exposed to these chemicals have harm, birth defects, or probably troubles developing in utero. So examples of that: ethyl alcohol, ethanol, fetal alcohol syndrome, for instance, lead, mercury, phthalates, thiodomide. All of these are examples of things that will mess with babies, either in utero or after birth, or shortly after birth, causing problems. But typically, usually, when you hear the drug commercials on TV, don't take if you're pregnant, that means there's some of this going on with that. Carcinogens are last. You've probably heard about this one. It's probably the most common one of the three. They're the ones that cause cancer, cause or promote cancer. And so carcinogens are the last one. So there are lots of those out there that have been tested, not all of them yet. Benzene, PCBs, radon, and there's just a whole list of them, like for instance, cigarette smoke is full of carcinogens. Next. So these chemicals that are interacting with our bodies can affect the body in lots of different ways. Some of them affect the immune system. So they specifically create problems for your immunity. They suppress your immune system. They harm your immune system. The next one are nervous system ones. They affect your brain and your spinal cord, right? Your nervous system in general. So lead or mercury, for instance, is one that messes with this. And then the endocrine system. Endocrine disruptors are very common problems and ever-growing ones that we need to be concerned about. And so they affect your hormones and how your hormones work in your body. And so we need to pay attention. Those are the three major ways that these chemicals usually affect people. And so here's another term for you, HAAs. It's a class of chemical that acts like hormones. And so the pill, for instance, is a synthetic version of estrogen. And so it is a hormonally active agent. Okay? And now this one is a little rougher of an example with the pill, but nonetheless, these are chemicals that act in your body like a natural hormone does, and they create problems. They can disrupt how you grow, how you metabolize food, and your reproduction level. So we have things that are hormone blockers. They get in the way of hormones working. We have gender benders, which is exactly what it implies they do. And then there's thyroid disruptors, which are also very common. Radiation from nuclear blasts have a lot of issues with thyroid disruption. Mercury. Mercury is an interesting thing. We've done lots of tests on mercury over the years. It is a teratogen, which means it's affecting babies in utero. And it's a very potent neurotoxin. It really messes with things. So it interferes with how your nervous system functions and your brain functions. It gets in the synapses and causes all kinds of problems. It causes problems in its airborne state. So once it's airborne, it stays airborne, it's persistent, and it doesn't break down or degrade, and that's what gets absorbed into your system. So 1/3 of mercury is naturally occurring sources. So we're going to have mercury in our systems because it's just in nature and it's how it is. 2/3, though, we've been adding to the system. So generally, mercury levels in all our bodies are much higher than they were 100 years ago. Okay. The problem also is when it gets into the food chain, it biomagnifies. So the higher up the food chain you are, the more and more mercury builds up in your system. That's why they're cautious about, say, is your fish mercury free? Because if not, and you're eating a lot of fish, it's going to build up in your body and create some real problems for you. So how are we exposed to it? Inhalation, we breathe in the vapors and the particles. For instance, burning coal creates, or wood creates that kind of stuff. And then another example is eating fish with high levels of methylmercury, which is a type of mercury in them. Those are two common ways that people are exposed. Here's actually the mercury cycle, and you can look through that in as much detail as you want. So it naturally moves in and out of the water. It's part of the fish system, and this is the biomagnification piece of it. It is involved in, it gets deposited as it moves through the rain cycle. So it's all kinds of places. But we add human sources by basically burning stuff. That's the main way we're really messing with the amount of mercury that's in the system. So mercury pollution, preventions and controls. So we need to find a way, if we're going to burn less stuff. So if we phase out waste incinerators, it's going to help with the mercury levels a lot. Remove coal from the mercury before it's burned. So can we separate the two? Yes, it's expensive, but it's possible. We can switch from coal to other forms because they have less mercury in them. Like natural gas has no mercury versus coal, so burn natural gas. And then you can also go to liquid phases as well besides that. Phase out mercury batteries. So batteries have cadmium and mercury in them, and they are bad for you. And most people just throw them in the trash can, which is really not very good. They need to be recycled. Control. We can curb the emissions. We could tax people to do what we want them to do. We can put labels on things so that you understand that that's important. And then you need to collect all of the different types of mercury that's in different things so that it doesn't get put in our landfills. When it comes to chemical things, here's the worst chemical accident that's basically occurred that in history. So in 1984, this was in India, a pesticide plant went a boom boom. So there's a huge explosion at this pesticide plant right here. And when it blew up an underground storage tank that was full of this stuff right here, methyl isocyanate, which is not good, it's a nasty gas, leaked out. And when it got out, well, it didn't leak out, it killed this many people. So we have to be careful of these kind of things. And in our country, we have a lot of secondary safety protocols and stuff, so we don't have big accidents like this very often in the United States. But around the world, this is a real issue for people. And the reason why it happened there is the government simply didn't upgrade the facilities like they should have. And so it's important that we need to keep these things in mind because it has a huge effect on people. Done for now.